And we move on to the main event. It's main event time, folks. It's the featherweight title fight. It's Alex Volkanovski, Alexander the Great. It's Ilia Topuria on the other side. Featherweight title bout. Let's get right into it with Volkanovski. I mean, let's just get into the history, of course, a little bit. Not too much, obviously. I thought he beat Islam the first time, so already that's pretty impressive, considering that was a 155, obviously. And then in terms of the featherweights, I mean, he has dominated every single featherweight he's ever fought. So, pretty fucking good. Well-rounded. Again, I don't like to throw this out there too much. I do not usually use the words well-rounded in these slides. I don't throw it around lightly, but I have to. And most people just think about his striking. The striking is obvious. Yes, of course. He dominated Holloway in the last one. Of course. Accurate, fast, diverse striking, you know, all three levels. Kicks, body shots, head. And incredible defense, because that's really his main thing, is the striking defense. That's what he does better than anybody else. Truly better than anybody else at featherweight. But what people now need to remember, he was out wrestling Islam at some points. Did he completely out wrestle Islam? No, of course not. But he had his moments. He was on top of Islam. He was competing with Islam in the wrestling and the BJJ as well. So definition of well-rounded right here. Very, very well-rounded. The fight IQ, though, is another thing that separates him from pretty much everybody else. Again, actually, kind of like earlier with Whitaker, Cejudo, I meant. One of the smartest in UFC history, truly, makes very, very few mistakes. One of them, of course, being in that last fight, but makes very, very few mistakes. The only other mistake that I can really think of that he made was, of course, the guillotine against Ortega. Almost got finished like that. That was a huge mistake. But other than that, I can't even think of a single mistake that this guy has made. So, very, very impressive. The only thing he has going against him is kind of that age. He is getting slightly older. And I'm not even saying he's old. He's really not that old, but he's getting there. And it is eventually going to be a problem. Is it a problem now? I don't know, but it will be eventually. So I have to write it down there, especially since, of course, Topuria is younger. And again, I hate to say it because I love Volkanovski, but eventually it's gonna catch up to you. Father Time is undefeated, as they say, just like Ilia Topuria right now, at least. That, and of course, with the KO loss, you never know, especially with age. You know, can he recover as fast like that? This was just a few months ago. It's definitely a factor. How big of a factor? We'll see. But I had to mention it because it is a factor. He is a slight favorite right now, but I mean, this is pretty much dead even. But slight favorite for right now for Volkanovski. Moving on to Ilia Topuria. Dominated Emmett in the last fight. I mean, really just I would say almost a complete shutout, but Emmett did have a couple of moments here and there. Got beat up by Jai Herbert, though. It was a lightweight in 2022, so he was a bit younger because it was kind of like, you know, a year and a half ago or a year and 10 months ago. So he was a bit younger, a bit less experienced. And remember, this was a heavyweight, and he still, not heavyweight, a lightweight, and he still rallied back to win the fight and get a brutal knockout at that. So, you know, is it a huge factor that he was having problems with Jai Herbert? Maybe, maybe not. We'll see. But obviously, his main thing is boxing, of course. And again, I just said this with Cejudo. Who did I just say this with? I said this was just somebody in a few fights ago. Now I can't remember. Not striking, just boxing because he doesn't really throw kicks. Super slick boxing combos, though. Okay power, but it's more of a cumulative effect. That's more so how he's winning these fights and how he's getting knockouts. It's not really huge one-shot power. I mean, maybe the Herbert one was a little bit, but it's more of a cumulative effect of hitting them over and over and over again throughout a round or two. That's really how he's getting it done. And, by the way, he did get hit by Emmett a few times, even in the third round, by the way, which is after he was kind of dominating him in the second round. So he was getting hit by Josh Emmett, even after all those knockdowns and all that crazy shit. Something to remember. Again, I forgot to change the colors. Shit. This is supposed to be green. Fuck. Shit. This is supposed to be green. Oh, yeah, I actually messed up the next colors, too. So this is supposed to be green. He's aggressive, which helps him a lot. He's always moving forward, and it's very difficult to deal with somebody that's always moving forward, especially when their boxing is that good. It's very difficult to deal with. This now is supposed to be red, and it's the pace, because he does not keep a high pace, even though he's moving forward, which is an interesting combination, because normally, if you're moving forward, you've also got a higher pace, because that allows you to move forward more. Topuria hasn't actually been doing that. He's been actually keeping a lower pace, but it seems like people are afraid of the striking, so they just move backwards. And that is how he's been looking so aggressive. Interesting, very interesting. But very, very low pace. And if you don't believe me, Josh Emmett, who again got completely wiped out in a couple of those rounds, actually had a higher pace. He was actually landing more strikes for the first couple rounds. And even after all 5 rounds were done, the numbers, if you just looked at the pure numbers of everything, Emmett was actually pretty close. I mean, was it that close? No. But he was only about 60, I think 60 or 70 strikes back, which if you really look at what they looked like after, you would imagine he would have been way ahead. But he really does not keep a high pace. So that is very important, specifically in this matchup. Still pissed that I messed up those colors, but I did, so whatever. We'll move on. Minus 106, that's what the odds are at for him right now. So who's getting the edge in this main event? Is it Volkanovski, Volk himself, or is it Topuria, the undefeated? I don't even really know if he's Spanish, Georgian, whatever. I don't even know. And he's German in there too. I don't know what he is, but he's very handsome, possibly, maybe even possibly in the lead for sexiest male fighter of the year, I gotta say. I'm just putting it out there. He might be getting the blue bonus for that at the end of the year. We'll see. And maybe Mackenzie Dern is getting thrown in there on the female side. We'll see as well. Very close on paper. Obviously, we've got the odds. We just showed also very close. I think it's close all around as well. Volk coming off the KO loss, getting older. Maybe Ilya gets that TKO. Maybe that speed in boxing gets the decision, you know? But Volk could also just easily do what he always does, which is outstrike them by grappling, outstrike them with his defense, really, because it's more so his counters, his defense, and then throwing in the odd punch kick combo in there as well. That's kind of how he's doing it. He's really picking his shots, he's really accurate, and makes the other person miss. Because if you can make Holloway miss that much, you can make anybody miss that much. So he could easily do that here as well. Or he could actually really just out-grapple him. Because if you're throwing around Islam a little bit, I'm pretty sure you can throw around Topuria as well. We'll see. But who's getting the edge? I gotta go with the champ. I was considering making this even, but then when I watched the tape and I thought about it a lot more and removed all the hype from the situation, I kind of think Yair Rodriguez was actually a tougher challenge than Ilya. I really do, because Yair was so dangerous everywhere. He was a knockout threat. He was much longer than Ilya as well. So he had a lot of reach. He had these crazy, wild, explosive strikes. He was more of a one-shot KO threat. And he also had crazy submissions, whereas Ilya, I mean, sure, he has a submission win, but it's not like he's some kind of jiu-jitsu ace. Like, I mean, Ortega couldn't even submit him, so Ilya's not going to submit him. I mean, he has no neck. The man cannot be submitted. And then I don't think he can get a KO because he always gets KOs based on his combos. But I don't think you're going to land combos like that on somebody like Volkanovski. So really, when I broke it down and thought about it a lot more, I just don't really know how Topuria is getting this win, other than he lands some crazy combo in there and gets a knockout. But again, this is also a 5-round fight. Keep that in mind too. And we saw the low pace that he kept against Josh Emmett. So he's not going to outpace Volkanovski either. So I just don't see where this is happening. And again, Volk has a crazy chin. I mean, sure, yes, kick to the head of Islam, knocked him out, sure. But other than that, his chin has been pretty amazing. So, and again, that was at lightweight as well. This is at featherweight. So I just can't see it. I just can't see it. So I had to give Volkanovski the edge, which is actually the first time I'm giving an edge in the main event on this, in this series or whatever on YouTube. So there you go. Volkanovski, that's my guy.